Alright, welcome back. This would be part 2 of making your kind of shipping container template. This would be the second formative. So you should have completed a orthographic view of your drawing here and submitted that to Moodle. This kind of gives us the overall dimensions and kind of familiarizes you with how thick each wall is. I'm going to have 2 of these open. So here's one that I'm going to kind of refer back to as I'm instructing, just because this has all my dimensions on it and I know how thick everything is. So if you want to have a second copy you can, or if you want to just start from scratch you can do that too. So I want to keep this top view. This is going to be where I start from. So for this I'm just going to delete everything else that's underneath it here. So dragging from the right to left, it highlights all that stuff and I can just get rid of it. I also can get rid of some of this other nonsense I don't need now that I don't need it, because I have it once again in this other drawing. But that said, if you want to just start from scratch you can. You can just draw a new rectangle at 8 feet by 20 feet or 20 feet by 8 feet, and we are back here in this area. So what I'm going to do is, basically starting from the top view, I'm going to build my base and work my way up, kind of adding each different group at a time. So what this is going to be my base. And actually, before I get ahead of myself, I'm going to go ahead and delete these things as well. We will redraw those in 1 second, so I do apologize for having you delete what we're going to redraw. But what I'm going to do first is I have this 20 foot by 8 foot rectangle. That's what the outer footprint of this container looks like. It's 20 feet wide, or 20 feet long by 8 feet wide. And we know that this base is 4 inches thick. And we know that because if we come back over here, this would be the front view. You can see down there in the corner we have 4 inches thick, so we have a 4-inch base. We also have a 4-inch roof. We have 4-inch front and back, and then we have these 2-inch side pieces. So you've already laid that out. That helps us now come over here and we can kind of picture this. So I've made my base piece, and before I go and draw anything else on here, I want to make this a group. So I'm going to triple click it, make it a group. Now it's protected. And what I'm going to do now is we need to lay out where those walls are going to go again. So once again we know that we have 4 inches on the front and on the back, and we came in 2 inches from each side. Oops. So we have where these pieces intersect. That is the same as what we have over here. We have 2-inch front or side pieces. Oops. And you should have 4 inches on the front and back. So we're just using our blueprints to kind of help us lay this out again. But now what we're going to do is actually start building this one piece at a time. So before I do too much, what I want to do is I'm going to bring this back over here and zoom in on this little square here. I'm going to make my corner columns, so I'm going to use my rectangle tool and just draw where those things intersect. So now I have this new face that I've drawn here. And just like I have a bottom base, I'm going to have a top ceiling. So I'm going to just make this the same height as our interior dimensions. It's going to run the same distance as our inside. So I'm going to push pull it, and if I come back over here to how high things go, I know our interior dimensions are 7 feet 10 inches on the inside. So if I come back over here, I'm push pulling this 7 feet 10 inches, enter. And like I said, what I'm going to do actually is take this base and I'm going to put it on top so that I have the 4 inches from the top and the 4 inches from the bottom, and then plus the interior dimensions of these corner posts, and that's going to give us a nice kind of even numbers to work with. So before I go any further, I'm going to make this a group, and that way that's protected. And now all I have to do is move these over from where I want them. So I'm going to make a copy, so I'm going to click this corner and move it along this edge, and if I pan over, come back to move, all I have to do is click that corner to that corner, and that's done. I can then come over here, and I need both of these to come over to this corner, so if I click this one, press shift, click this one, zoom in on this so I can see that corner, press my copy button, and click. I can bring that into place. So now I have my 4 corner posts kind of like I was describing before. Then from here, I'm just going to keep drawing and filling in as I need to go. So just like we have this dotted line kind of running this distance, I'm going to just go ahead and make another rectangle. So starting from that corner and running over here to that corner, I've made a new face there, and I can push pull that new face up. I want it to be the same height as that. So that gives me my sidewall. Again, before I go any further, I always want to make sure everything is its own group so that nothing gets stuck together on accident. So I'm going to triple click that new object that I made, make it a group, and I can copy that and connect it to that corner there. So now I have my side pieces, my front and back pieces. Obviously what I'll do next is draw another rectangle. This will be my back wall. Go to push pull. Start moving it up. I'm going to pan down so I can see this a little better. Push pull. So it gives me that wall. Oops. Zoom out. And as I keep stressing before we go and do anything else, we do need to make sure this back wall is also a group. So I triple click it, right click, make a group. So now that is also a group. And this is where we're going to make a little bit of a change. I could just copy this whole thing over just like we've done. So grab it by the corner, make a copy, bring it to this corner. So I could do that. However, I've just basically made a box, and as we know from the shipping container, it is just a box, but it's a door, and there's a hinge on both sides here with a break in the middle. So for one of the sides, I do need to make sure I draw that door into place, otherwise it's not very realistic. So kind of have two options here. I could just go in and make an adjustment here. So I could go into this shape. See how I clicked into it before it's a group, so it's protected. I need to go into the group. And basically, I just need to find the midpoint. Okay, so I found the midpoint there. I'm going to click on the midpoint, come straight down, and you can't really just saw things in half in SketchUp. I can't just make this line go around and make that two different groups. So what I'm going to do is, just push pull this face to the offset limit 4 inches, and I'm just going to get rid of it because now I have this group that's basically the door I'll have in the corner, and all I have to do is click on that, copy it, and put it there. So now I have two different groups that provide me the door that I need. And this will be good so that when we actually go into making the way this is supposed to look, I can actually hinge it and I can open these doors and it makes it look more real. So the last step, once again, to making this is I'm going to make the base and the roof the same. They're both the same thickness, so I'm just going to basically do exactly what we've been doing. Make a copy of this, bring it up, and now we have what looks like a fairly straightforward shipping container. It's not entirely accurate to what the real containers are, because these real containers have these like big reinforced corners and they have room for forklifts to go underneath. That's part of what that 4-inch gap is there. And the side pieces are kind of like this wavy piece of metal. We're going to kind of cheat that a little bit to give us something that's easy to work with. But that said, we can make it look nicer and make it look real so that it's more like what these actual containers look like. So what I'm going to do is, containers are not these flat, smooth boxes. They do have kind of the outer bars that are reinforced, and that's what supports all the weight. So I'm actually going to kind of change the way this looks a little bit to make it look more realistic. So what I'd like to do is come into this. I'm going to use my offset tool, and I'm just going to offset it kind of the standard. Like, we know that the front doors have like that 4-inch thickness, the front walls have that 4-inch thickness. So for the top, I'm going to offset it 4 inches, which gives us this face here. And I'm just going to push pull that in a little bit. We have a 4-inch ceiling. It's really thick. Real shipping containers don't have 4 inches of metal on top, so I'm just going to cut that in half to where that's 2 inches there. So now I've kind of created that edge going around it, and already that looks more realistic to what a container box would have. It has kind of the reinforced edges with thin metal in the going around it. So again, I want to do this to kind of all of these pieces. I want my corners to be what looks reinforced, whereas my sidewalls look a little more thin. So I'm going to go around and do that. However, I don't have to do the offset again on the sides, because the way we've built this, we've already created these corner columns. So I don't need to create the offset to build that column, it's already there. So all I'm going to do is go into this group, which this group is 2 inches thick. I want to just push that in, again, about half the distance. So I'm going to go to the push pull. I'm just going to push this 1 inch in. So now I have a 1-inch piece of metal, which that is pretty much all a real container would be, with these reinforced corners. I'm going to do the same over here. Just going to push this in I don't want to go the full 2 inches, I just want to go 1 inch. And I'm going to do the same thing with the doors. So I'm going to push the front door in. These front doors are 4 inches thick. Again, I'm just going to take that in half to go 2 inches. Do it with this one as well. 2 inches. And you can kind of see how by creating that offset based on the corners, so we have our corners that are the metal reinforced pieces, but then the other pieces are offset, you can start seeing how that's more what these containers actually look like. If you really wanted to get detail oriented, you could even draw these bars in. These are like your locking mechanisms. You can draw those in here that kind of go in that little bit of offset that you just created. So I'm not going to do that with you, but if you want to get super detailed with how your doors look, that's one way you can do it. I still need to offset this back wall here. Again, the thing is 4 inches thick, so I'm going to just take it half the distance to 2 inches. And now I feel pretty pleased with how this container looks. We have 2 doors, we have the top and bottom. I'm not going to bother offsetting the base or the floor of it. We could, but once again, the base is kind of thick, purposefully so. That's where you have space for like forklifts to slide under there to pick these things up, or to put ratchet or like tow straps around it to pick it up with a crane. So because these containers do have kind of this naturally thick base here, I'm going to just leave that as is. So, and it gives you some room to work and play around with how you actually build this and set it up. So the last thing I'm going to do is, just to make this look more real, I'm going to go ahead and color it. So go to my paint bucket and leave. Oh, the roofing. The roofing is the one that I like. Pick this red roofing color, and we can color all this in. This is the template that I would like you to use to start building your shipping container. Now, when you're done, you can obviously paint it any color you like, but I would like you to all use the same template for now. I'd like to basically have you show me that you followed along these instructions all the way to the end and painted it in the way that I like. And I think that this looks fairly realistic for what we would want. When I want to open these doors, I can go ahead and hide the roof. I can then hinge these doors out. Oops, not move, I need to use rotate. So I can hinge that door out. Unhide. And you can kind of see already how just by making everything separate groups, it gives us a lot of freedom in how we can actually build this. I can open each door separately. When you actually get in to start building it, you can hide the walls that you don't want to see. Because these are all groups, cutting windows in it will be really easy. You'll just have to go into the groups and draw your rectangle. So you go into the group, draw your rectangle on the face, push pull it like we normally do. You can cut windows, doors, you can make things hinge, you can kind of do whatever you want with this for the rest of your project. That is up to you. But I do want you to go ahead and load this onto Moodle as your container body template. So once I see that you have your template loaded and I can tell that you worked on it and built this, we can then go ahead and load it, or you can get started on actually designing how you will turn this into your living space. And I do just want to point out once again, I left these dimensions here purposefully. So our overall exterior dimensions are still 8 feet by 20 feet, and because of the care with which we drew this, if I was to go in and measure, my interior dimensions would match the interior dimensions that are on our sheet here, because we just built these walls up to fit the way it's supposed to fit. So, congratulations, you have a template for a shipping container body, and from here you can start building your final draft container where you make this a living space. So, thank you. I know this was kind of a long video. Thank you for watching.